Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Good News Tuesday, so let's see how many stories we can fit in on today's schedule to cover the good stuff that's happening, not the bad stuff, because we have enough bad stuff from those other guys. Today on Before Coffee, new 3D printing technique could help to repair brain injuries.
Will George Santos cast the deciding vote for Jim Jordan as Speaker as the country continues to shit the bed? And federal judge slaps a gag order on loudmouth bully defendant Jay Trump.
Australian watchdog fines Twitter for failing to tackle child abuse content.
And on Good News Day, Joe Biden visits Israel and Jordan. Another good news, woman gets a bionic hand and the Western Americas got sore necks on Saturday staring at the sun.
British actor Mark Strong on rebuilding Ukrainian schools and the dangers of compassion fatigue.
Those stories and more, which is October 17th, National Mulligan Day 2023. Wait, can I do that again?
Yeah?
On Before Coffee! It's National Mulligan Day, guys.
Yeah, I got it. First news story. New 3D printing technique. This is from Ocean Dubois. Research on Euronews next. Researchers could help to repair brain injuries by 3D printing human stem cells. A new technique has been developed that could help people who suffer from brain injuries. Researchers from the University of Oxford were able to 3D print neural cells to mimic the cerebral cortex or the outermost layer of the brain. It is the part responsible for important functions such as language, memory, reasoning, and decision making. When these 3D printed cells were implanted into mice brain cells, they integrated with host tissue. The university said the findings were published in the Journal of Nature Communications. This advance marks a significant step towards the fabrication of materials with the full structure of functional natural brain tissue, said lead author Dr. Yongchung Jin from the Department of Chemistry at the University of Oxford. The work will provide a unique opportunity to explore the workings of the human cortex, and in the long term, it will offer hope for individuals who sustain brain injuries, he added. The findings come as Europeans tune in to watch the Rugby World Cup, despite impending lawsuits against the sport's governing bodies related to brain injuries. Traumatic brain injuries can be caused by contact sports, trauma, or stroke, and typically results in damage to the cerebral cortex. Even though millions of people globally suffer from these injuries, there are no effective treatments. These regenerative therapies, which use a person's own stem cells to repair damaged tissue, are one of the options being explored to treat these types of brain injuries. But there hasn't been a way to make them properly interact with natural tissues of the brain. How did the researchers even do this? They used a technique called droplet printing to create two bionics from the stem cells to produce two-layered structures. The stem cells have the potential to turn into the cell types found in most human tissues and can be easily derived from cells harvested from patients themselves to not trigger immune response. Researchers then proceed to test tissues ex vivo by implanting them into mouse brain slices, a dissection section of their brain. They found that the brain cells integrated well with the existing mouse brain cells, with the human and mouse cells communicating with each other. Researchers now want to improve their 3D printing method to make brain tissues that mimic a human brain better. Human brain development is delicate and an elaborate process with a complex choreography. It would be naive to think that we can recreate an entire cellular progression in the laboratory, said senior author Professor Zoltan Molnar from Oxford's Department of Physiology, Anatomy, and Genetics. Nonetheless, these results show substantial progress to form the basic functional units of a cerebral cortex, he added. In the future, these brain tissues could help treat brain injuries, test new drugs, and study how the brain develops and works. I wonder if it could even help cure Alzheimer's as well. But that one's hard to do because Alzheimer's is caused by loss of all those functions, and you have to regain them again, I guess. So you probably still have to go through some sort of brain therapy to regain functions. But we'll see in 100 years if we're printing brains with our 3D printers. Your next story.
I think a great quote from Norm Macdonald the other day, my favorite comedians, he was talking about Alzheimer's. And he was saying, everybody's talking about living in the present. We should all live in the present. Well, you know what? You know who lives in the present? Alzheimer's patients. They only live in the present, and it's hell. Anyway, because they can't remember shit, Okay, anyway. So anyway, that was the old Norm with more wisdom from the grave. All right. In political intrigue news, the Speaker of the House vote is going to Representative Jim Jordan at some time today, perhaps, when they secure enough votes, which last time they voted for the House, it took 15 votes, and Kevin McCarthy squeaked by with the help of course, George Santos. So this will be interesting to see if the Speaker of the House vote goes today, and if George Santos is this deciding vote. The guy shouldn't even be in Congress or shouldn't even be out of prison. The guy who basically lies about everything. It's going to be a deciding vote to make sure who's third in line for president. In other political intrigue news, a federal judge has left a gag order on defendant J. Trump. And there's my story. Just went to a stupid pop-up ad instead of reading mode. What the hell? Okay, let's try it again. We'll be patient. A federal judge on Monday issued a gag order on former president. This is from CNN. The other story was not sourced. It was just me. So, just reporting the news. This is from Holmes Leebrand and Caitlin Polans and Hannah Rabinowitz. And here's the story from CNN. A federal judge on Monday issued a gag order on former president, defendant J. Trump, limiting what he can say about special counsel Jack Smith's federal prosecution into his alleged attempt to subvert the 2020 presidential election. This is taking the place of Squeal of Fortune. The order restricts Trump's ability to publicly target court personnel, potential witnesses, or special counsel and his staff. The order did not impose restrictions on disparaging comments about Washington, D.C., where the jury selection will take place, not where the jury will take, I guess it will, or certain comments about the Justice Department at large, both of which the government requested. This is not whether I like the language Mr. Trump uses, says Judge Tanya Chutkin, said this is about the language that presents a danger to the administration of justice. His presidential candidacy does not give him carte blanche to vilify public servants who are simply doing their jobs, the judge added. Chutkin noted that any violation of order could result in sanctions. How about jail? That's the only thing that's going to work is jail. You know that. He gets away his freedom for 24 hours. His freedom and his phone for 24 hours. He'll be crying, wetting his pants. Anyway, Trump will appeal Chutkin's order. That's going nowhere. Following the two federal indictments against the former president, Trump was lashed out against prosecutors, potential witnesses, and a judge overseeing election subversion case in Washington. Prosecutors with special counsel Jack Smith's office said that these comments are enough to warrant a narrow restriction on Trump's speech around the case. Chutkin, often the target of Trump's attacks, warned the former president that comments he or his attorneys make could threaten the case. Mr. Trump is a criminal defendant. He's facing 4 felony charges. He under supervision of the criminal justice system, and he must follow conditions of his release. He does not have the right to say or do exactly what he pleases. Do you agree with that? She asked Trump attorney John Lauro, who responded 100%. Oh, 100%, huh? We'll see. Trump's attorneys have attacked the proposed order as fundamentally antithetical to the First Amendment rights and suggested that his order is simply a way, blah, 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 for Joe Biden and the Justice Department hurts Trump's ability to campaign. No, dude, you broke the law. You broke the law. Laura accused the special counsel's office of trying to prevent President Trump from speaking out about the issues of the day. Blah, blah, blah. When you start use the word like thug to describe a prosecutor doing their job, that wouldn't be allowed by any other criminal defendant, Chutkin said. Just because a defendant is running a political campaign does not allow him to do whatever he wants. She added, if the message Mr. Trump wants to express is my prosecution is highly motivated, he can do so without using highly charged language. Trump's legal team had little reaction inside the courtroom as Chuck didn't issue an order, but afterward they were fairly jovial. One of the lawyers emerged from the courtroom, telling the other they would need to call their client. All right, well, there you go. Trump's got a gag order. Let's see if they lock him up or they just go, well, here's a fine. But fines
You gagged in, you still spoke about it.
Well, we'll test. We'll see. Again, we're in a wait and see. It's like, we just sort of locked him up without bail, put him in handcuffs to begin with. We didn't have to deal with this. Treat him like a perp from the start, because that's how perps need to be treated. Your story.
All right, speaking of perpetrators, there's supposedly a lot of child abuse content on Twitter. I haven't seen any, thank God, but some people are seeing it and they've reported it, and Twitter has done nothing about it, I guess. That's why they are getting fined by Australian watchdogs. This is by Associated Press. Australia's online safety watchdog said Twitter provided no answers to some questions, including how many staff remained on trust and safety team that worked on preventing harmful and illegal content. Australia's online safety watchdog has fined Twitter, the social media platform, $610,500 Australian dollars, which is equal to 366,742 euros. That's a lot of money. Over 300,000 euros, probably over $300,000 as well, for failing to fully explain how it tackled child sexual exploitation content. The country's e-Safety Commission described itself as the world's first government agency dedicated to keeping people safe online. The commission issued legal transparency notices early this year to Twitter and other platforms, questioning what they were doing to tackle the proliferation of child sexual exploitation, sexual extortion, and the live streaming of child sexual abuse. E-Safety Commissioner Julie Inman Grant said Twitter and Google had not complied with the notices because both companies had failed to adequately respond to a number of questions. The platform, renamed X by its new owner Elon Musk, was the worst offender, providing no answer to some questions, including how many staff remained on trust and safety team that worked on preventing harmful and illegal content since Musk took over, Inman Grant said. I think there's a degree of defiance there, she said. If you got a basic HR system or payroll, you'll know how many people are on each team. After Musk completed his acquisition of the company in October last year, he drastically cut costs and shed thousands of jobs. Twitter did not immediately respond to a request for a comment. Twitter could challenge the fine in the Australian federal court, but the court could impose a fine up to 780,000 Australian dollars or 468,000 euros per day. Wow, per day? That's okay. Wow. So it's like, oh yeah, you can challenge it, but you're gonna have to pay us even more money if you want to get out of it. Might as well just pay the fine. Yeah.
Either turn into a legit source or stop being,
Yeah. Since March, when the commission first found the platform had not complied with the transparency notice. The commission would continue to pressure Twitter through notices to become more transparent, Inman Grant said, adding, they can keep stonewalling and we'll keep finding them. The commission issued Google with a format warning for providing generic responses to specific questions, a statement said. Google Regional Director Lucinda Longcroft said the company had developed a range of technologies to proactively detect, remove, and report child sexual abuse materials. Protecting children on our platform is the most important work we do, Longcroft said in a statement. Since our earliest days, we have invested heavily in the industry-wide fight to stop the spread of child sexual abuse material, she added. But they still also didn't answer the question, right? They didn't say, here's the team. We have a team of 20 people who review footage. That's what they wanted the answer to be. Instead, they just said, of course we stop sexual abuse for being displayed on our apps. Okay, great. It's a good thing you have a moral high ground. Can you tell me what the actual team is that's doing that, please? Otherwise, we're gonna fine you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we're not looking for a corporate answer.
Have.
Yeah.
How
Why
dare
would
you?
we be sharing child abuse? That's a ridiculous accusation. Anyways, I guess good news. Hopefully that will force them to actually do something about it. And instead of, I guess it's right. I haven't seen any. But I'm the kind of person who, if I see like a 12-year-old doing a TikTok dance, I instantly downvote it because I'm like, they should not be on TikTok doing dances. Any child. Because there are perverts everywhere. Okay?
Yeah,
and they get your video, they're gonna download it, and they're gonna put it on some sick child porn site, even though all you're doing is dancing. Because you can't trust the internet, okay? So if you're 12 and you're doing TikTok dances, just make them and share them with your friends. You don't have to put it on the internet. You can just leave it on your phone. You say, hey guys, send it in a private message, like a text or on WhatsApp, whatever. You don't have to post it for everyone to see. If you want, because let's be honest, only your friends want to see it anyways. You're 12.
Sick world. It's a sick world, boys and girls, just like that Disney ride. It's a sick world after all.
Your next story.
Okay. My story. You may wonder why I said, hey, Good News Day is about the president going to the Middle East. Well, it is good news because he's going to Israel during basically try to talk them out of killing more people for no reason. Try to make sure they get humanitarian aid to these poor people they're displacing with their war they're about to start. And he's going to Jordan to meet with all the Muslim concerns in this area, just so he doesn't start an all-out war. So this is called basically shuttle diplomacy. It's making sure everybody's engaged and that the United States isn't going, we're in everybody's side and we're going to turn it into a parking lot, which is what the right wing in this country thinks is a great idea because they want the rapture. So let's give Joe a pat on the back as he tries to thread the needle in the Middle East. It's worth a try.
Yeah, I saw a post on Twitter earlier where he said, this is bad, we should stop this, and everyone in the comments was like, dude, like 3 days ago you were like, fuck the Palestinians, okay. And now you're like, whoa, stop.
You're starting more hostility when he's trying to do diplomacy. That's what I was trying to rally against here, is this finger-pointing nonsense. We're in a tough position. We're trying to be the diplomats here. Anyway, and good news... we have a woman becomes this is from Good News Network.org from Andy Corbley. Woman becomes first human to be fitted with nerve and bone fused bionic limb. That's right, a Swedish woman named Karen has become the first person ever to receive a below the elbow prosthetic that fuses bone with metal and electrodes. An incredible feat of robotics and biology, it is seen to represent the eventual gold standard of prosthetics and has encouraged the interdisciplinary science team to believe it will be available to other amputees in other circumstances in the future. Mechanical attachment and reliable control in prosthetic limbs are two of the biggest obstacles in artificial limb replacement, with many amputees opting to reject even the most sophisticated commercially available artificial limbs due to the fears of painful and uncomfortable attachment and limited, unreliable control. Karen lost her right arm in a farming machinery accident 20 years ago and was one of those who decided against the existing prosthesis. A multidisciplinary group of engineers and surgeons from Sweden, Australia, and Italy aim to solve these problems by developing a remarkable interface that faces human and machine to allow the limb to comfortably attach whilst enabling electrical connection with the nervous system. Called osseointegration, is a process where bone tissue embraces titanium, creating a strong mechanical bond and enabling connection with the nervous system via electrodes implanted in the nerves and muscles. Karen, an engineer, says her groundbreaking bionic arm. She's an engineer who lost an arm in a farming accident. That's interesting. Karen, an engineer, says her groundbreaking bionic arm has reduced the terrible phantom pain she used to feel and has been life-changing and returning her capabilities in everyday life and regaining her independence. In the years following her accident, she endured excruciating phantom limb pain and found that existing conventional prosthetic limbs were of little help in daily life, as well as being uncomfortable. I felt like I constantly had my hand in a meat grinder, which created a high level of stress and had to take high doses of painkillers. I now have better control over my prosthesis, but above all, my pain has decreased. Surgery was done in December 2018, and she started using the arm in mid-2019. Lead researcher Dr. Max Ortiz Catalan, head of the Natural Prosthetics Research at the Bionics Institute of Australia, as well as Center for Bionics and Pain Research in Sweden, explained that the fact that Karen has been able to use her bionic limb for a number of years is very encouraging. Karen was the first person with a below elbow amputation to receive this new concept of highly integrated bionic hand that can be used independently and reliably in daily life. Karen is now using somewhat the same neural resources to control the prosthesis as she did for her missing biological hand. There's that good news story about the hand. Another good news. We had people interested in looking at the sky this weekend. That's right. According to Reuters, the rare annual solar eclipse transfixed crowds across America. Thousands of people across America gazed at the heavens on Saturday to witness a rare phenomenon known as the annular solar eclipse, when the moon passes in front of the sun, momentarily producing the appearance of a ring of fire in the sky. It's one of these things you can't miss, said Oscar Lopez, 26, who traveled from Mexico to the southern Mexican city of Campeche to see the eclipse. It's amazing. We're lucky as human beings to be able to experience these things. Really? Other animals can't experience it? Anyway, U.S. Space Agency, NASA, said the eclipse was following a path from the U.S. Pacific Northwest over California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and other parts of Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, Colombia, and Brazil before ending at sunset in the Atlantic Ocean. Lopez said his family were among the hundreds of spectators wearing sunglasses who gathered to watch the moon and glide slowly across the face of the morning sun in Campeche, a picturesque colonial era city on the western edge of the Yucatan Peninsula. The annular solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between Earth and the sun at a time when the moon is at or close to its farthest point from our planet. It does not completely obscure the face of the sun, unlike a total solar eclipse. Instead, it creates an image of a brilliant ring on the outlines of the sun surrounding the dark disk of the moon. One of the celestial fans in the crowd chose the eclipse to propose to his girlfriend as they looked up in the sun in Campeche. I wasn't expecting it all, she said. I feel really happy and I'm really sure I want to spend my life with him, she said on the spur of the moment. So that is today's Good Tues News Day. Back to you. If you're still there.
That was a lot of good news.
Well, it was two. I mean, I wanted to make sure
we
get
news
the full
good
story.
Tues News to good. It went Tuesday.
I
missed that joke. Okay.
I just want to cover the big news. That's all.
All right. Let's talk about Mark Strong, who is famous for playing the actor from that one movie. What is the name of that? I can't remember the movie it was in, but he's the one who basically put West Virginia, that song, West Virginia, Mountain Mama, that song. He's the one who put it back on the map for pop culture because it was not a famous Country Roads. It was not a famous song for people my age or younger until he sang it in that one movie, Kingsman. He sang it in Kingsman before he died. He was stepping on a mine. Oh, okay. He sang the entire song, and then he stepped off the mine and exploded. That's what I know this actor from. He's been in plenty of things, and we'll find out what he thinks about Ukraine and compassion fatigue. This is from David Morquand. I think David writes all of the articles for Euronews Culture because every time I read one, it's him. But let's go into what he wrote about today. We just need to keep going and remind people that there are people who need our help. Over the course of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, more than 3,000 educational facilities have suffered damages, with over 400 of them completely destroyed, representing 10% of the country's educational facilities. President Volodymyr Zelensky has appointed several ambassadors over the past month through his charity United 24 in order to collect donations for his nation. The most recent addition to the team is acclaimed British actor Mark Strong. You've seen him in films such as Zero Dark 30, Sherlock Holmes, Kingsman, The Imitation Game, Tar, and more recently in The Critic. His filmography isn't impressive as it is varied. Strong joins the likes of Barbra Streisand, Liev Schreiber, Ivana Sakono, Richard Branson, and United 24 ambassadors, and will be responsible for supporting the platform's education and science program, specifically raising funds to build bomb shelters in schools. Euronews Culture sat down with Mark Strong to discuss his new role, how public figures can make a meaningful difference, and the risk of compassion fatigue when faced with conflict, as well as some of his upcoming projects on both the big and small screens, including a certain pivotal role in the upcoming Dune series from HBO. Wait, they're making a Dune series? I thought they were making a Dune film, and now they're making a Dune series? Too many things. Mark Strong. Euronews Culture asked, how did you get involved with United 24? I was asked to play in a charity football match at Stamford Bridge. I'm a big Arsenal fan, and I was told that a lot of ex-Arsenal players like Robert Pires and Clichy and guys like that would be playing. So I have to confess that my first enthusiasm for the match was the fact that I would get to meet all these legends, who I'd grown up supporting. But then when there, I bumped into Andriy Shevchenko, who had actually played in a charity match a couple of years before Soccer Aid, the British annual charity event raising money for UNICEF. He's a very lovely man, and we became good friends. And then I met Alexander Zinchenko, who's another Ukrainian footballer who plays for Arsenal. And I realized while I was there, over the course of the couple days that we were training for the match, that the whole thing was being done for United 24, which is President Zelensky's fundraising arm, and that was raising money for Ukraine. I got talking to the guys organizing it, and they asked me for help, and it's very difficult when someone asks for help and to say no, frankly. Please help us. No. Mark Strong's an asshole. You know, that's what's gonna happen if you say no. Do you think it's important, perhaps now more than ever, that artists and public figures like yourself lend their public profile to these causes to raise awareness for social and political issues? That would be an interesting question for you as a journalist to answer. Because things have changed over the years. In the past, we didn't have social media. Yeah, we did. It's called the newspapers. Social media has always existed. As soon as writing, actually as soon as the word of mouth. Word of mouth is social media. Okay?
That's right.
The guy on the street going, here, that's a social media. We don't have access to information that everybody has, and it just seems to me that people are becoming obsessed with fame and imagery, and all of those things. People have always wanted to be famous. I want to be known in the legend books, said, all those people who legends are written about. What is his name? I can't think of any hero, any Roman hero, anything. Beowulf! Beowulf! He was like, I want to slay a dragon and be a hero. See, Beowulf. The first known written legend. People are creating their own photographs on their phones. They're becoming very oriented towards their own visual effects. Perhaps it's that environment. It is important that people who are visible and recognizable should help out with things as they feel strongly about. And that's what I feel I'm doing. You spoke to President Zelensky over the past months. Many celebrities have been active in showing their support, from Sean Penn to Jessica Chastain, via Ben Stiller and Mark Hamill. Is there any risk of sense of oversaturation or numbness from the public perception? And how can celebrities show what they're doing actually matters? That's a good point. I think everything suffers from oversaturation in the current world. It's very difficult to encounter compassion fatigue. It's very difficult not to encounter compassion fatigue with very serious issues, like the invasion of Ukraine. I'm sure the same thing is going to happen with what's happening with the Middle East at the moment. There are worthy causes all over the world, going on at all times. I think what I can achieve is something direct. Rather than a general wash of compassion for everybody in the world, I can help rebuild schools in Ukraine, and that's what I was asked to do. And if I can raise money to help rebuild a school and make it very specific, then I feel like I'm helping. As for the saturation element, this war is not going to be over anytime soon. As I was told, Ukraine is in it for the marathon. It's a long sprint and people will get tired and bored. Bored in inverted commas, which is such a tragic notion when children are being bombed. We just have to keep going, and we have to keep reminding people with as many incentive ways as possibly can not to forget about the suffering that's going on in Ukraine at the moment. And if I can shine the light on what's happening to children over there, I feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. What specific fundraising initiatives will you be taking part in? Well, the football match raised money for a specific school, and I was able to see photographs of the school and the children. It made it very immediate for me. I was then asked to think about raising money, and I decided to be going to be raising $60,000, approximately 57,000 euros, for a school in Uman, in the Cherkasky district. It's called the Dim Trushkivsky Lyceum, which has 327 pupils, and they need a bomb shelter, which is insane when you need to say that in a sentence. A school needs a bomb shelter. It's generally a harrowing thought. It is. The school is about 2 hours away and half from Kyiv. In order for them to study, the bomb shelter will be incredibly useful because they can go there should there be any danger. It would allow them to continue their education. That's something specific that I'm raising money for right now. There's one thing I wanted to say. This might sound a little pompous, but here goes. I knew you were going to ask me about it, why I wanted to get involved with raising money for United 24. And the one thing I want to say I can think of is Edmund Burke quote. He said, "The only thing necessary for triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." And I think that's incredibly relevant. There's some pictures of the school. It's very small. It looks like a small motel, really. And they have little beds and little tables with little jackets. And they're like, we need to put a bomb shelter in this. It's a quote that doesn't remain vital, especially when it's easy to get lost in the sea of depressing information about how broken the world is. Yes, the world becomes a more and more extraordinary place as you get older. I remember sitting as a schoolboy reading stories about World War II, about battles, about soldiers, about historical events, wars that have happened. They were in the history books. I didn't really believe in the reality of them. They were historical events. Now, as I've gotten older and realized how many wars there are around the world and how much conflict is going on, it's just mind-blowing, you know? People still haven't learned that to try to live in peace is way more preferable than aggression and disgusting behavior by people trying to feather their legacy. And whatever the hell they're trying to do. Speaking of which, have you seen the Mariupol documentary? 20 Days in Mariupol? Yes, it's an incredibly bracing film. And it ultimately brings back, like lots of films and documentaries, that we do seem to be a species who doesn't learn from our mistakes. Bring back is the interesting phase, because it can easily drift out of our consciousness. It can drift away and we can forget about it. But I think films like that and organizations like United 24, even this interview, you're interviewing me about this, can help. We just need to keep going and remind people that there are people who need our help. To pivot somewhat, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your career. Prior to this interview, I rewatched some of your films, with favorites including Sunshine, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and Kick Ass. Throughout your career, you seem to have achieved this balance between big-budget blockbuster films like Kingsman or Shazam, and smaller, more independent productions. Are there any projects you prefer doing, or any that you seek out more than others? When I started out as an actor, the thing I loved most of all was variety. You know, being able to mix and match, not just characters but media. I started out in the theater, and it was years before I got in front of the camera. I started to make some television in the UK, and then came movies. What happens over the years is that I tried to mix it up as much as possible and not do the obvious next thing. For example, I'm doing TV series at the moment. I'm in Budapest filming that, pretty much until Christmas, and then I'm doing a movie in Germany about a real-life character called Joseph Hartinger, who tried to prosecute the SS for the first 4 murders that happened in Dachau concentration camp in 1933. That's what's something very different. And then later in the year, I'll be doing a play in the West End, and a modern dress version of Oedipus, directed by a very clever, talented director called Robert Ick. So, one TV, one film, one theater. All completely different, working with great people on different subject matters, and that's what keeps it interesting for me. You come from a very multicultural background, with an Austrian mother, Italian father, growing up in the UK. Would you be keen to push towards more European productions and languages other than English? Well, I nearly did a German film with Maria Schrader, Stefan Zweig, Farewell to Europe, I'm Your Man, she said. And I wasn't able to do it because of COVID. And that would have been a film in German, because I speak German. I was really excited about doing that. Unfortunately, I just couldn't travel. And recently, I was asked by a Japanese filmmaker to play part of a German officer in the Japanese black and white movie she's making. Probably not next year, but next year after. And again, I would be totally German speaking. Though it does seem to be moving that way. Although this film that I mentioned to you, 33, also starring Paula Beer, directed by Niels Arden Oplev, will be in English language, even if it's about a German subject matter. So I'm very happy to make anything in Europe. I grew up in the 70s and we joined the European Union. It was a big part of my life. I found the tragedy of Brexit extremely unfortunate. I'm not a subscriber to the idea that we should exist as an island. No man is an island, as they say, and there is an awful lot to learn from Europe. Moving from Europe to the US, the writer's strike is over, but the actors' strike is ongoing and negotiations have halted. How has it impacted you? And do you feel similar situation could happen in the UK or Europe? It has impacted me and has impacted everyone in my business because the writer's strike initially meant that projects all came to a standstill. And before SAG went on strike, we were showing solidarity and not crossing the picket lines. So work stopped. Then the Screen Actors Guild went on strike as well. And everything came to a standstill. But still shows I'm doing in Budapest is a European show, an equity production rather than a SAG production. We were given a waiver by a SAG, although we do have a couple of Screen Actors Guild actors who cannot film their scenes until the strike is over. So those scenes have all been pushed to the end of the shoot. And we're just waiting and hoping that something gets resolved, otherwise we'll be filming this forever. It could absolutely happen in the UK and Europe. It happens at the moment. There are a lot of friends who are out of the work because productions have come to a standstill. The people are really affected and not so much the actors, but it's everybody around, the crew, the people who work in makeup, the drivers. They're on strike and have no beef, but they are finding they have no work, so things are getting tough. One major talking point about these strikes is the use of artificial intelligence and the risk it poses for acting profession. Is that something that you worry about? It's a worry because we don't know how it works yet. If you ask by a production company to stand in front of a whole bunch of cameras and give your digital information to them, it literally means they can do whatever they want. And if you're not careful in a contract and include things to say that you're not allowed to say, then you don't read the small print of the contract properly. It's possible that once they have the digital information, they can do whatever they like. Case in point, for example, we have scenes involving 200 extras. If those extras all agree to provide the digital imagery, they are not needed after the first day, because they have the digital imagery of those 200 extras. They can put them in later in post, which means that 200 extras only get to work one day instead of the time actually required. I'm guessing that the show you're currently filming and are referring to is Dune, the Sisterhood. Yes, Hidden Hand, it's what it is known in, but yes, it is Dune, the Sisterhood. That's very exciting, especially since the release of the second part of Denis Villeneuve's film has been delayed until next year. How tight-lipped do you have to be about a project? What can you tell us? Well, people have become very tight-lipped about every single project over the years. You used to be able to chat about it. It's very difficult for me to say very much, except that it's based on Frank Herbert's The Sisterhood of the Dune book, which is obvious because that's a book series, which deals with Bene Gesserit's, the nuns within the story. This show deals with the creation of their order. It's a big production, it's got some fantastic actors, and the storyline is wonderful. If you like that kind of thing, it's going to be a very intriguing prospect because it's a big number. It has Emily Watson, Olivia Williams, and you also play a character called Cornio, is that right? Yes, Emperor Corino. He's the first Padishah Emperor, apparently, and he's worth knowing that we're making is before films and that the world is 1,000 years before the films, but it's totally the same world. I think it's going to be pretty good. So the books? Yes, I've read quite a bit of the books. I'm looking forward to any of the roles that you have to tackle. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed Dune, the Sisterhood. Okay, so there you go. There's your lovely chat with David Strong. Oh, and also he loves to see Stop Making Sense by the Talking Heads, his favorite music documentary. So I guess you guys are in he quickly mentions that, by the way, I think it's the greatest concert film ever made. And then
Cool.
This is the same guy who made that list, right, of the concert films, and he didn't put that on his list. So he's being called out here by Mark Strong in the interview saying, you didn't put this on your list. So there you go. There's our very long interview, because I had 2 short stories, so I did a long interview with Mark Strong about Ukraine, his projects, and the strike. This day in history.
That still doesn't fix him overlooking Alice in Chains in favor of Nirvana, which is just a disgrace. This day in history, the Battle of Neville's Cross, the English defeated the Scots, who, as allies of the French, had invaded England in an attempt to distract Edward III from the siege of Calais, France. and that was in 1346. And 1448, the last major effort by Crusaders to free the Balkans from Ottoman rule began with the Second Battle of Kosovo in Serbia, in which Hungarian Wallachian armies suffered a crushing defeat. In 1707, German Baroque composer Johann Sebastian Bach married his cousin Maria Barbara Bach in Dornheim. Putting shop outside the family, huh? 1777, British General Jean Burgoyne surrendered his troops following a shocking defeat at the Second Battle of Saratoga. Famously, our ancestor was there, Ebenezer Leonard, who was a general. 1854, actually another one of our ancestors, Frederick Luke, fought on the German Hessian side in that same battle and was captured and was a prisoner of war. That's why he became an American. 1854, British and French troops began the siege of Sevastopol in the Crimean War. And 1918, American actress Rita Hayworth, whose portrayal of seductress helped earn her nickname the Love Goddess, was born. In 1939, American classic Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, starring James Stewart, had its world premiere. Although it angered political establishment, the drama won wide acclaim from the public and film industry. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. 1968, the American action film Bullet was released. It features Steve McQueen in what many consider his definitive role and is also known for its iconic car chase sequence. In 1972, American rapper and actor Eminem, who is one of the most controversial and best-selling artists of the early 21st century, was born. Marshall Mathers. 2005, The Colbert Report, a ironic send-up of television news programs hosted by Stephen Colbert, debuted on Comedy Central. It ran until 2014. And this day, 5 years ago, in 2018, recreational marijuana became legal in Canada. We stopped calling it marijuana. We call it THC, or cannabis. And in this feature event in 1979, Mother Teresa was awarded the Nobel Prize. That's right, on this day in 1979, Mother Teresa, founder of the Roman Catholic Order of Women dedicated to the poor and particularly to the destitute of India, was named recipient of the Nobel Prize for Peace. And this day on a feature biography, Mae Jemison, American physician and astronaut, was born in October 17, 1956, and it's her birthday. Other birthdays today, Montgomery Clift was born on this day in 1920. 1938 was the birthday of Evel Knievel, American stuntsman, and 1962 is the birthday of Mike Judge, the creator of Beavis and Butthead, and one of my favorite TV shows, or one of my favorite movies, Office Space. Also creator King of the Hill. Office Space, great movie. All right, National Day calendar today. What is it? Today is October 17th. It is a pro-life day of silent solidarity. What? I don't know what that means. Who's anti-life? Past National Pasta Day is today. It's National Mulligan Day, as we make all of our mistakes and get a second chance. It's Black Poetry Day, so celebrate the black poets. It's National Edge Day, so celebrate the guitar player for U2. I'm not sure why that's pertinent. It's National Edge Day. We have to look that up. Well, it's got to be about the guitar player for U2. The National Pharmacy Technician Day, also about U2. I'm just kidding. Well, let's figure out what National Edge Day. You know what that means? National Edge Day. National Edge Day promotes the movement of youth refraining from using alcohol, tobacco, and other recreational drugs. Well, it kind of runs counter to Canada making weed legal, but hey, it's National Edge Day, and happy birthday to the guitar player for U2. Let's look at his real name. What is his real name?
The guitar player from U2.
The Edge.
It really is his day. It's not like a different kind of edging.
No, it's the one where everybody tells kids don't use drugs, kids.
Don't live your life on the edge. Live your life in the center. Is that what it is?
Well, if you really want to know the Edge's real name, his real name is David Howell Evans, and he was not born on October 17th. He was born on June 18th.
Okay, so it's not his birthday.
Wait a minute. No, wait. Let's see what his birthday is. What is his birthday? No, his birthday is August 8th, 1961. Yeah, okay. There you go. He's a glorious 62 this year. So we missed his birthday, but we're just going to celebrate today.
Okay.
And he still hasn't found what he's looking for. Your story.
No more stories, because it's the end. This is the end of Before Coffee. On our Good News Tuesday, we have covered all the good news. There's no more today. Don't even try looking. We scoured the whole internet looking for it. So keep in mind that we're printing brains, and we may solve Alzheimer's in the future, or brain injury from rugby and football and all sorts of brain injuries, I guess. In 100 years, we'll be printing brains with our 3D printers. I'll see you.
5 years. 5 years, man. 5 years.
Full brains. Right now, we can only print the frontal cortex. What's better knows than prosthetic brains and prosthetic hands? We can print the whole brain. We can just have brains in jars. Anyways, that's not the point. This has been Allison here from the Netherlands. Tomorrow is going to be Wacky Wednesday, so we're going to cover all the wacky and weird news that happens this week, and we'll see you then.
This is Roger celebrating prosthetic brains and prosthetic hands on October 17th. The comprehensive news of planet Earth, October 17th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.